Episode 97 of the World Builder's Anvil. Today's topic, creepy home for our boogeyman. Or as it is said in Russian, creepy. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. As always, I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
In today's topic, we are going to make a creepy home for the boogeyman we made back in all the way episode 96, I think.
Yeah, I think it was last week. Yeah. For those of you that weren't paying attention, we took upon the charge of creating a creature, and we decided on going with the Halloween theme, and we made a boogeyman. So if you haven't heard that, I encourage you to go back to listen to that episode, because not only did we come up with some cool stuff, it's a great exercise. It's a great building tool that basically that we did while we recorded the show. So we're going to do that again today, except now we're going to give the boogeyman a place to live. Yeah, and in general, when you're creating supernatural places in your world, they don't need to be connected. But in this circumstance, because of Halloween, just bring the theme of the monster we just made and give them a home. Because boogeymen, I don't think a lot of times have homes, at least not homes that you interact with. But ours does. But ours does have a home, yes. Which I think is cool because it gives us an excuse to create a scary place within the world.
Yes.
So, and have a reason for it, not just, there was a town there and everybody died, and that's why it's a ghosty, creepy, scary town now.
But, you could go back to the classic sort of English-American idea of the fog came through and everyone disappeared. All you could hear was a scratch on the window at night when the fog came.
Ba 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 ba.
It makes for really high-quality horror movies. Did you ever see that one, The Fog? I think it was called The Fog.
Are you kidding me? It's all right. So I haven't launched my new show yet, but I have an episode that is just about John Carpenter films.
Okay.
And the original Fog was a John Carpenter film. Actually, the original he might have remade that.
It might have been a remake.
I think he remade that because it has since been remade again.
Oh, it has?
Yeah. Like they remade it again.
Well, the John Carpenter one is the one I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
But the idea, that just plays into sort of our Anglicized fears, which is this idea that there's something you can't quite see, you can't make out, ergo you can't control.
Do you really chalk that up to Anglo fear and not just human fear? We have the fear of the dark is a very common thing. It's just like when you can't see something.
But it's the idea of the fog and the mist. That's an Anglo
I know,
thing.
But I think
that comes from the seafaring tradition of early America and England.
Well, not to spoil the movie, but that's what that movie's about.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember it. Yeah.
So, you're spoiling it then.
It's like a 30-year-old movie.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's like when we talked about Excalibur, the same thing. If the movie is over 20 years old, I think it's okay.
We're allowed to spoil it.
Yeah, we're allowed to spoil it.
Just one
and it's not like I described it either. So it's not such a huge plot point that it's going to hurt the movie for you. It's still a great movie to watch.
Yeah, if you can't really kind of figure out where it's going from the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much.
You probably should stop watching horror movies.
Okay, so in our prior episode, we came up with our boogeyman, but we didn't name him because we didn't really have something decent in mind.
Yes.
But Jeff and I have discussed this in between episodes, and I gave him a bunch of different name ideas, and what he has done is put it into his language, Badracham. So do you want to enunciate our boogeyman's name?
He would be called Ichvacher.
Ichvacher.
And essentially, to literally translate it, would be weak, dark man. Meaning, the darkness is weak, ergo it's a shadow, and it is a man, as we determined it was a man.
So a rough translation would be Shadow Man.
A good translation would be shadow.
Oh, that would be a good translation. Okay.
Yeah. A bad one would be the literal translation, because literal translations are often bad between languages.
Gotcha.
And a quick sum up.
Say it again.
Ichvacher.
Ichvacher.
And the idea is he's a shadow-based creature that if you break the rules of hospitality, especially hurting visitors, is the worst possible sin you can commit here. Ichvacher will come for you and bad things will happen.
And we probably won't. We don't want to just go over everything that we did, but I'm sure we're going to cover a couple of things that we talked about in the last episode. We're going to have to. But the basic gist is like most big boogeymen he targets children. So the goal is here that, your kids should be kind and respectful and good little boys and girls. And if they aren't, Ichvacher will come. But not only just for visitors, but also if they just are disrespectful to their parents or what have you.
Yes.
So.
And there are levels of him coming, and it's never good.
Yeah. And Jeff, being a Creeposaurus Rex, came up with some rather savage. I mean, so did I. I had some dirty details in there,
he's
too.
He's really sort of like a Boogeyman Plus.
He's like a Candyman. Like, he's graphic. He's gory when he comes. The things he does.
Yes, there's nothing ungory, really. Which is unusual, because typically I don't go to gore, but it worked for me here.
Yeah, it did. Okay, so I had a question that kind of jumps into the first topic on this is we have location written on the board. So we need to decide on where his home is. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking back to the episode where we talked about the forced migration of the Bajraka people. So I figured that would be where they are. So my thought is, which as per you, they're right near the mountains.
Yes.
In the plain.
The mountains are hugely important.
Right.
So there's essentially, for people who aren't familiar with my world, there are some rough maps up currently on my website. If you go to Gardul.com and then you click under the navigation to fantasy worlds, there are 3 generations.
Say that slower. You plowed right through that.
Gardul.com and then click on Fantasy World.
Fantasy World.
And it will take you to a rough description of what Gardul is. And there are actually multiple generations of maps. So my first real Gardul map, followed up by the first generation on a computer and the second generation on a computer. Essentially, the graphics updating a little bit each time, but it'll give you a rough overview. There's this part that will stick out in the ocean in the upper left corner, and that's what I call the arm of the world, and that's where the Bajraka are from. There is a major mountain range, very tall, very formidable, that runs almost through the middle of the arm. So that is a hugely important thing, because one, that's where the orcs are from, especially the mountain orcs. Shockingly, come from
mountains.
Yeah. And
how'd you come up with that one?
I don't know.
This stuff just comes to me.
It's just like magic.
So anyway, because they're so close to the mountains, I was thinking, let's put his home in the mountains. Like, they'll have to trek up into the mountains to get to it.
Which actually really works out at multiple levels, because even though you don't know this, a lot of the holy sites, the really important ones, are in the mountains already.
I think you certainly alluded to this. Remember we had that big joke about having a whole bunch of gurus on the mountain?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There was like
so I wonder if we got to that from talking about this, but yeah.
Oh, not about this, but it was when you were talking about the mountain range. It was within the forced migration episode,
but
definitely.
talking about this culture.
Definitely. Yeah. So I have two things that I was thinking about. One, put it in the mountains. But also because I love the idea of it being the whole thing about him, both where he lives and him, and just having it all being steeped in lore, mystique, and also paranormal. So while it is a physical place, my vote is it's not really on a map. Like, you just kind of have to know how to get there, and you might search for it and not ever find it, even if you are in the place that it would normally appear.
And you can't sleep until you find it. No.
Do you want to stick something? No?
Yeah, no.
Well, so
the thing is, as long as you're searching, it's part of the penance. Maybe there's no actual physical location to it.
Like, you step into an ethereal plane
long enough,
somewhere along the way. Yeah.
And if you go back the exact same way you came,
you might not find it.
You won't.
Definitely won't find it. Okay. All right. I like that. So I'm going to add to the board here mountains,
and you have to have a desire to go there.
Okay. Desire to go. And so it's kind of going to be, I assume, quite purposefully and on the forefront of his mind to allow you to be there or not.
I don't know if it's his mind or if it is...
Or if it's just some ethereal dark power.
Yeah.
So, because my thought is, like, could you manage to get there? It's my feeling that if you get there, you're gonna see him. Now, whether you get there and he doesn't know you're there yet, so he arrives back home and he's like, "Oh, I have visitors," sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or if you go there is he immediately aware that you're there, even if he's somewhere else?
Oh, I think he would know instantly if someone was treading upon his dirt.
Okay.
But he might or might not know that you have gone there. So
he might not know who.
He might not know who.
So is it possible to... Okay, so here's the question. Is it possible to go there and leave there without him knowing it was you? So that's not possible?
That's not possible because you can only leave essentially with his permission. I think the area will let you find it.
So the area might let you in, but only he can let you out.
Only he can let you
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to write that down too.
So, and how about this now? Is it an actual home?
Only he...
Or is it just like a space?
Grants leave. Is it an actual home or is it a space? Well, we agreed that this is the place where, again, according to the prior episode, if your children are super bad and he'll visit multiple times, he'll do things to the kids, and the warning goes to the kids first. I can't remember.
Let's see. What happens is
the kids get the white hair.
That's the final part.
No. Remember there was like if all families got white haired kids, then he visited.
Okay.
So I think that's the first warning. Like if they see him and if he comes to visit, but he doesn't do anything horrible to them, but he turns their hair white and their hair will remain white for life. That's their first warning. Like we have to do something.
And like white to where you can't use magic to change the color.
Right. So if they decide at that point, because the next stage is he comes back and he kills that child's parents. So the parents suffer the sins of the child. And, in this tech level, if the parents die, pretty much the kids are going to die off too. So the parents, to prevent that from happening, take their kid to this place to sacrifice that kid to save the rest of their themselves and the rest of their family.
Yeah.
So they're going to go up into the mountains to try to find this place. So it's definitely a place of sacrifice, but the question is it a home? Like, does he live there? Does he have a structure?
But is it like, that's what I'm saying. Is there a structure to it? Is there like
a cabin,
castle on the hill, or a cabin?
A Unabomber cabin?
Ichvacher's hut. I mean, not that I could have come up with that from anywhere else.
I kind of like the hut idea, though.
Well,
think about it. Oh, no.
Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga?
Baba Yaga, I think, is Bulgarian boogeyman.
Okay.
And very famously has this hut where you go on the inside and it's like a mansion, and it's this thing you can't get out of. Made popular, I think, probably by D&D.
Yeah.
In non-wherever country it's from, because there's this artifact in Dungeons & Dragons called Baba Yaga's hut. And it is the hut of this boogeyman. Except in D&D, I think you get the hut, which is really cool. But
you get the hut, like what? You pick it up and carry it somewhere? Or?
It can move.
It can move.
In D&D. I don't know much about Baba Yaga in reality.
Well, no, but in D&D, like how does it move? Like
it's a hut on stilts, and the stilts would literally walk.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Well, okay, I like the idea of a hut or a structure, because that you could have here's how it could be. If you like, say once they step into the ethereal plane, say there is like a mist that hits them first.
Oh, there's a mist, and then there's a mist around them that you step through the mist and you're blocked in by the mist.
Right.
You walk back out of the mist, you go back in.
Yeah.
That's how you get trapped in.
So if they manage to get inside and they've discovered Ichvacher, and they've discovered Ichvacher's, let's say, hut for the time being, his hut, if they can see, the light of a fire glow from inside the hut, they know he's there. But if it's all dark, then he's not home. So they know when they arrive, that's the legend.
That's at least the legend they know.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what I like. I like the idea of having a whole bunch, like very few people have gone. Well, of course. All right. Look, anyone that had a white-haired kid, went for a walk and came back without a white-haired kid, they've been there.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're too scared to talk about it. Or maybe they do, like, my cousin.
There would have to be legends when you have something like
yeah, of course. Well, of course. But how much of it is them making stuff up, and how much of it is real? You know what I mean?
Or how much of it is someone making up on their own, but no one maybe has really talked about it.
All right. So, but we're trying to talk about, and I'm going to put this in air quotes, what are the facts of...
really big air quotes.
Yeah, really big air quotes. What are the facts of Ichvacher's home? So, do you like the idea of a hut, or do you want some more rudimentary structure? Because he's a shadow. Was he ever a bipedal creature? and has become a shadow? Has he always been an ethereal sort of monster thing? Is he he's a representative of one of your gods, right?
He's a representative. I think probably he is someone, maybe the first person who didn't show hospitality to the god of hospitality.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. I'm going to write first offender.
First offender.
And so that's more on him.
It is his punishment to do this for all of time.
He's got to carry the souls of the heathens into the nether. So getting back to the structure, you want a home. So if he's a first offender, then he was some sort of humanoid, in which case a structure might be appropriate.
A structure might be appropriate.
Tent, cabin, log house.
It would be older. It would probably actually be a tent.
A tent? Yeah. Could it be a tent that you could put a fire in, though?
Yeah, it'd be like a tent like a nomad would use.
Okay, so pseudo teepee style.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to write teepee tent.
Yeah. So big tent, you can put a fire in the middle. It's designed to let smoke rise out of it. You're probably not burning wood.
Home if
no
fire.
There's never any light in there. If you bring light source in, it's always dimmed to that of a flickering candle.
No, but I'm saying I like the idea. I like the idea of when they arrive, like once they know they are where they are, there's a way for them to tell if he's there or not. Or do you want them to not know, and then they have to peek into the tent to find out?
They have to peek into the tent.
Okay, so we're going to take the fire part off the list. No
we'll
fire.
Put it back into the fact that when they walk in, any light source they have becomes a very dim flickering.
I think it should.
Candle.
I think that should be one of their indications that they've entered. I think as they walk through the fog, for some reason, their light source gets dimmer. Yeah. So they're like, "Why can't I see? I'm holding."
Light source.
All right,
dim light source down.
So dim light upon arrival. Okay. All right. So we have a place. It's in the mountains.
It's at night when you walk.
Well, of course. Even if you go in the middle of the day.
Yes, it's always night.
Always night.
Do they have strength?
Do they have a better chance of getting there if they go at night versus the day?
I think so. I mean,
so we tried to take Bad Little Billy up there to sacrifice him, but we were scared of the idea, so we went up in the middle of the day and we just couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I mean, we went right where the old man said it should be. So
yeah.
So you can't get there during the day?
You can.
Yeah, I think you'd have to, because if we're going to say that once you get there, it's night.
But it's kind of on the space itself to determine. So it's like this force that determines your entry.
So shall I write that it's harder to get there in the day?
Yeah.
Nah. Yeah. Okay. Always night.
It's what we call a story dependent.
Even if daytime.
All
right. Does he have a pet? No hounds of hell or any sort of creatures.
Lonely person.
Okay, so there's no sort of, maybe not his pet. Are there any other creatures in the area?
No creatures. I don't think there's any sounds of creatures.
Okay, no, just like worms crawling all over the ground, maggots. Flies.
It looks like you're outside.
I have like an idea of like a dark and gloomy swamp. Even though we're in the mountains, like maybe you come to like. Think of like a gorge, but no water. So you've got like stone around you, maybe some busted up trees that just aren't growing anymore.
There's
like
some
logs.
Stone and trees.
Yeah.
But there's an absence of any animal.
Nothing's living. All of the things that I'm seeing, it's all just like black, dead. Like
no. The plants can all be dead, but there is a complete absence of any living sounds outside of yourself.
Outside of what you're generating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
All right, so just write no life.
No life.
No. So the plant life's all dead. No life. Why is this thing not writing? Is it muddy? Is it dry? I kind of like the idea of like if you got an area where it's all kind of swampy, like you got like leaves upon leaves where trees have dropped leaves down for years and years, and now they're not dry. They're all wet. Like it's always been wet. So you're kind of squishing in. But it's all blackened leaves. You know what I'm talking about? Like you get piles and piles of maple leaves.
What would be worse for a bedraken person going into A swampy area.
Hey, that's no fair. You wrote the book. I don't know as much about the Draken people as you do. It's not fair for you to use that knowledge against me.
Yes, it is. I'm just trying to figure out what would be creepier for them.
Okay.
As a culture, would it be to have this? Because swampy areas are always kind of creepy.
Are or are not?
Are. Unless you live in them.
Well, Yoda likes them.
That he lived in one.
That's my point.
And like I said, unless you live in them, they're creepy because they're dangerous. There's something you need to know about them. There's something about it being bone dry too that's appealing. In the sense that you can't even get more water while you're here. It's like the area itself is being inhospitable to you. Do you
think that would even cross their minds though, considering why they're there and the fact that I don't think that if I had to go into a space like that with the intention of killing my child to save my own life and the lives of my family members, I don't think I'd be wondering where my next drink of water would be coming from. I'm sure I'd be way too scared and way too apprehensive about everything else going on.
Fair.
But environment definitely on a subconscious level is going to affect them. So if you think drier would be better.
I think salt marsh.
Salt marsh. So define a salt marsh for me.
So essentially the water in there is salty.
Okay.
So if you decide to drink of the water, in a way it's poisonous.
Gotcha.
So,
so no life, salt marsh, foggy, dark.
There is an altar inside of the tent.
Oh, it's in the tent.
Oh, it's.
I envisioned it outside.
Yeah. No,
how big of a tent are we talking? Give me like a circular. I assume it's circular.
I would say it would probably be slightly smaller than this room.
Smaller than this room?
Slightly, like
the base of it.
The base of it.
Okay, so you're really only talking like a 10, 12-foot circle of floor space. That's very tiny.
Yeah, very tiny.
Well, it's only one guy.
Yeah,
that's true. He doesn't need a lot of space.
Yeah, and that's just the size of them because ultimately, he would have come around from when they were nomadic people, and so
it wouldn't be able to carry a huge tent.
With them, yeah. So he'd have to carry it with him. So it would have to be portable.
Yeah.
They're relatively large, usually a small family unit, like a very immediate family would live in them. When the kids got older, they would end up moving into their own spaces. Now, obviously, like kings and stuff like that would have a larger tent thing, but everyone would have to help carry it around. And that's as the culture is getting a bit more advanced.
Probably, since this guy's the first offender, it probably wasn't a king.
Was probably very early on. Even if he was a king, it was probably very early for a person to be in the hospital.
I mean, if he was the first offender, well, okay. If he was the first offender, certain things are obvious. They need to be aware of their God. Subsequently, they need to have a concept of a higher power. So, because part of me was going to say he must have been pretty primitive, but actually probably not. He was probably a little more.
The idea of religion is one of the very first things that draw people together. So,
and if he had a tent, of course, there would have been at least enough technology to, hunt down animals and create something out of their remains to make a tent.
Yeah.
So
definite hunter-gatherer tribe level, stone weapons.
Possibly bows and arrows.
Oh, yeah, but it would be stone-tipped arrows.
Right. No steel.
Possibly bow and arrows, maybe more spears.
Or what's the kind of highlight thing? I mean,
I know what you're saying. It's a spear thrower.
Spear thrower, yeah. Okay, so salt marsh, no life, tent, altar inside the tent. How big is the altar? Is it made of stone?
It is like carved out of stone, so it's like a boulder that's been carved down.
Okay.
It is slightly too small for the child.
Okay.
And it does not matter how big the child is.
It's always going to be slightly too small.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that. Slightly too small altar of stone. Now, if you go there to sacrifice your kid and he's off doing something else, does he immediately come back?
Well, he'd probably finish what he's doing and then come back.
Okay.
But
is it possible for you to complete your task while there alone?
No.
I would think he'd have to come back.
Oh, yeah. He'd have to witness the
exactly.
Sacrifice. Yeah.
Grand entrance, appears subtly.
I think he always appears subtly. I don't think he can do a grand entrance.
Well, I mean, he could. I don't know.
Possibly it's the torch kind of flickers almost out, and then he kind of comes out of a
light source,
out of the smoke from the torch as it extinguishes.
And don't forget, we had said before that when the kids first see him, his eyes will appear first.
Yeah.
So maybe it's something like that.
Well, and here you might only be able to see his eyes. So.
Okay. So now you have time. I mean, we've been going on and on.
We actually kind of covered the time question mark, and that's the idea of, is there a certain time you can get there or a certain time you can meet him? And we kind of determined that that's up to the space.
Okay. So now the next thing we have on the list is consequences for visiting.
Yeah, and we have a few different things that we have to talk about.
Yeah. Am I pulling out my evil laugh for this part?
So the first one is with. So
and by with we mean with purpose. Like you've shown that the person has shown up there with ritual sacrifice as purpose.
Yes,
and that's the only reason they should go there.
Should ever go there.
Yeah.
If you go there without or with purpose, essentially, obviously, you walk out
empty-handed.
The party one size smaller.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you have to do it, do both parents have to go? No. So it could be one parent, like just the father, just the mother going by themselves.
Yeah.
That could create some interesting stories if you have a circumstance where like the mother is begging the father, don't do it. And the father's like, it has to be done. And she says, we're not going to. And then like she's off doing whatever she's doing during the day. And then she comes home to find that they're both gone.
Or conversely
and then he comes back alone.
Yeah. Or conversely, it's like he leaves with the child, and she's at home taking care of the rest of the kids. Then all of a sudden her kids start disappearing.
What do you mean?
Like, say you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
He takes the offending child with him to sacrifice.
Right.
And then all of a ssudden, little Bobby, the good kid, just disappears.
Now, why would that happen?
Maybe the sacrifice was never made.
Oh, like he took Bad Billy and well, let's pick a different name so they don't sound similar. He takes Bad Frederick and Good Billy is at home. And like he just can't kill Frederick. It's his firstborn, even though he's a horrible little kid. Yeah. He just can't bring himself to do it.
Or he falls down and hurts himself and can't complete the task.
Or the kid just runs away.
Or the kid kills him.
Ooh. He's that bad.
He's really.
Oh, he's doomed if he kills Dad, though.
Oh, he'll survive.
No, he won't. The boy?
Well, he might be able to survive, but he would be that would be your psychotic your psychotic character.
Yeah, but wouldn't the boogeyman go get him? I thought we established that the boogeyman would go get him if something like that happened.
I think we might have.
We might have. I don't remember specifically. But he might have reason to let him go, too.
Yeah.
Who knows? So a father goes, can't kill Frederick, and then so you're actually stepping into the third on the list. So we have consequences for visiting the boogeyman with purpose, without purpose, and failing to commit the purpose. Sacrifice. So you're jumping to that.
Yeah.
So other kids start vanishing, just flat vanishing.
I think
because everything he does is so gory. It's so in your face. He turns their hair shock white. He pulls teeth out. He tears limbs off.
But in a way, I think what happens is they vanish one by one, and then when he comes to the parent,
wait. They vanish one by one, but then they start finding parts.
They could do that too. Because my other thought was then it's like the parent then is taken and all of the kids are laid out and he forces them to watch the good kids go down one at a time. But I do like just the finding the bits and pieces of them.
Or maybe what if it's like he forces you to commit? Look, you came here for a reason. Mm-hmm. You came here to sacrifice Bad Frederick, but you can't do it. So now instead of sacrificing Bad Frederick, you have to sacrifice Bad Frederick and Good Bobby. And we can keep this up all day. You got 9 kids. I can keep bringing them here.
Yeah.
You want something like that?
Yeah, let's do
Instead of finding pieces, like now he has to do that. All right, now what happens if the father still refuses? What if he brings like these, let's say he's got 3 kids and all 3 kids have been sucked in?
Well, then they go.
But how? What happens?
Oh, the horrible slow implosion of the body.
So like they just get crumpled up into nothing?
Yeah. Well, yes, but you feel every bit of being crumpled into the size of a grain of sand. And you don't die. You just get crumpled up into...
And they're screaming the whole way.
Hold on.
But here's my thing. my only problem with that is there's no way, unless you create an ethereal way, there's no way for the parent to know what the child is feeling. If you watch somebody break their arm or like ribs crack out of the surface of their skin, or their teeth get torn out, like you have an idea of how painful that is.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're limiting your imagination of everything shrinks at the same pace. So you could have the skin get pulled down, and you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so things start popping apart, and it's real gruesome.
Yeah, it'd be very gruesome, but it would end up a speck of sand, a speck of dirt.
Okay,
and the only dry patch in the marsh that you've gone into is like the same style of dirt. When you sacrifice your kid, even if it's the naughty kid.
Oh, like when they start walking in, the dirt's different. There's just something different about the dirt. Yeah. You can't tell what it is, and what it is that's all children. That was all children.
It was all children or bad people.
Yes. I like that. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. But the only way everyone would get to know that is a parent that didn't do it would have to come back and talk.
Mm-hmm.
Which means the parents have to live at least long enough to go back and tell the story.
My thing is, even when they sacrifice the child, when they deliver the death blow, they will then see that happen to the child, the naughty child.
So even if they do commit the sacrifice, this shrinking of the body still occurs.
Yes.
Would they be dead at that point, though? Like,
no.
Well, then we need to decide what the sacrifice is. Like, what occurs. I envisioned the parents having to kill the child.
Yes. No, it is a death blow on their part, but it does not let them die.
So he or she commits a mortal wound to the child, but they don't die from it.
On that, I think whenever you step on the sand, it's almost like a low moan.
That's what I was going to say. Like maybe like distant cries. Like it sounds like
it doesn't even.
No, because we said no sound.
Well, I'm changing.
You're changing. Okay,
but it's not so in your face that you would recognize
subtle.
It as a cry. But it's just like it's like like when you step in mud, you get the suction sound.
Yeah.
It'd be something like that, but it wouldn't make sense because it's like sand you're walking on.
Yeah, and and of course, it would be every step would be unsettling and unnerving. Yeah. You like chills up your spine and the hair on your neck standing up for no real reason aside the fact that you're in an ethereal plane.
And here's the irony: the god of hospitality is in the good pantheon of gods.
Look, there's dirty work that's got to be done, and
sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
This guy's just my enforcer. You got to keep my hands clean. I got to have someone else's hands get real dirty. Okay, so the parents go. Now, is it just a generic mortal wound, or does it have to be specific? Like, I think
it is it is a ritual cut.
Like, I would think in a culture like that, where they would have agriculture and they would have animals, that it would be whatever a butcher would do to kill a pig.
Yes,
I would assume it would be something like that. Maybe like a neck shot,
probably slitting the throat.
Yeah,
I would imagine in most primitive cultures that's the way you would slaughter livestock.
Yep,
and so.
Do they have to get hung up above the stone to make a pool of blood in the not big enough? No, they have to do it while they lay the child down on the stone.
They lay him out on the stone.
Is the child restrained? We're talking about sacrificing children. You realize, like, this is kind of an unsettling conversation right now.
Yes,
like I'm realizing how detailed we're talking about this. Yes. It's kind of messed up.
I think it would depend on the child. They'd have to be restrained to some point. I don't think
I would think
for being sacrificed.
I would think no matter who you are, human nature is to try to survive. I think that this stone has either ropes that are obviously to be used to restrain the child. Like, that's just part of it. Like, you could walk in and just instinctively you can tell, okay, that's what those are for. Because the kid's not going to let you just kill him. No. He's just not.
No, even if they're young, they're going to try and protect themselves.
Yeah,
self-preservation. Think one is when they're laid out on the stone, and they're probably trying to figure out how to do that.
Or getting back to ethereal presence,
just their actual arms actually just
hang over the
seem
rock,
bound to the ground beneath the slightly too small rock.
I was just about to say something like that. Maybe it's the space that either puts them in a sort of zombie-like state, although that might make it easier for the parent to do it if they're very docile. I like the idea of the child fighting.
Okay.
Because I think that
ropes.
Well, whether it be
ropes,
the implication of, like you were saying, like an ethereal restraint, or if it's actually I think the parents have to tie him up because that's tough.
No, if we're making it tough on the parents,
Frederick, sit still.
Yes,
it's got to be agonizing for the parents.
Yeah. And I think that is
okay. So
I think they have to physically tie them down.
I'm going to write ropes.
These are very naughty people.
So we're going to go with a slit throat.
Yeah.
Okay. Slit throat. And I'm going to write, doesn't kill, body shrinks to sand.
Mm-hmm.
Body shrinks to sand.
Mm-hmm. You probably literally see it just kind of, you hear a small wind, but you don't feel it, and it just kind of rolls off of the thing into the ground.
Yeah, it just rolls out. Like he doesn't, like he being the boogeyman doesn't pick it up and do anything with it. Like maybe present it to them, or just totally unceremoniously rolls off the stone, like that's it.
You hear this wind, you do not feel it.
Okay.
And the only thing that moves, like from wind, is the sand. And it just
of course, they might not put two and two together until it hits the ground, and it's exactly the same as all the other. If they don't get that point,
he slaps him. He's like, listen,
they're all kids.
You've got to tell them the dirt is children.
The dirt is children. It was people. That's our Soylent Green reference for the episode here in the Spooky Sand Studio.
Spooky Sand Studio, very good.
And if you want to get your copy of Soylent Green, go to www.garduel.com/Amazon for all of your Amazon needs. It takes you straight to Amazon, and it helps out the show. So if you love the show and you want to help support, www.garduel.com/Amazon. It doesn't change the prices of any of your products. It just helps out the show.
You know what it does do? It makes your heart feel better.
Makes my heart feel better.
Yeah. I think your heart would be like, wow, that's so awesome.
That's so great. How many people can I tell also to do this? and there'll be a contest, and we'll give small applause, golf clap, to the person who can tell the most friends and family members that they should also buy their goods from Amazon through Garduel.
Very, very good. Okay.
So, grain of sand falls off the altar.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what happens if you go there with purpose and you finish the purpose. Now, you had said that earlier, we had said that he has to allow you to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens there? So the grieving...
I'm changing on that.
You're changing on that.
I think it's the location that does. And if you're...
So it's not up to him.
It's not up to him. It's if you're committed to do it or not.
So what if you're not committed, but you do it anyway? Like it's arduous for you to do it, but you do it.
Then you're committed to do it.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, you can even be wavering like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. But when your mind has come up to the spot that there's no way I can do this, it's gone.
What's gone? What do you mean?
You're like sitting out in the rocks of the mountains and
the place vanishes.
The place is gone and you're like left there.
Alone with child? Is the child with you or the child?
The child would be with you.
Wouldn't that be... So you have the bad child.
Yes.
And is that when the good children start to vanish?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But he wouldn't know until he got back. So he decides, well, what else am I going to do? So they start walking back to the village. And then he meets the mom. And she's like, our other three kids are gone. Why'd you bring him back? You've done this. And would he then eventually, you know what? Here's what happens. So he takes the good kids kind of as penance and punishment,
mm-hmm.
and he still kills the parents.
Oh, actually, hold on.
But he lets that child live.
That's here's a small modification of yours. When the place disappears, the bad kid is gone.
The bad kid is gone.
The bad kid is gone.
Okay.
After you get back, at some point, your kids start disappearing.
So not until you arrive back.
And the place will probably have a certain time limit to that. Like, if you just haul south,
mm-hmm.
it's still going to...
It's going to happen either, regardless.
But we'll say it will try and give you till you go.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but now you come home without the children.
Now this...
Do you lie to your spouse? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like...
so he's got like... How'd it go?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
I ducked him.
Frederick's gone.
Poor Frederick.
But the other kids start vanishing.
The other kids start vanishing.
So I want to know what happens to Frederick.
When you get pulled through, you still have the option. Frederick's still on the altar.
So he's still there?
He's still there on the altar for you when you get back.
So you could go back and finish the deed.
Because remember, the thing is, Well, now we have Bobby.
Oh, so you kind of do have to go back.
Oh, but it like when
it's
you're
waiting. It's waiting for you, and
this time he pulls you back.
Oh, I like that.
And then at the end, if you can't kill the other children, you die. He lives and becomes a monster.
The child does.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think the child should live so that he can also.
I mean that as a proverbial human monster.
Okay, he doesn't change physical form.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant. Yeah, so he gets to live, shock white hair and all, and he knows the story.
Yeah,
he can perpetuate. Say his name again. Ichvacher. So he can perpetuate the story of Ichvacher and the legends, the things that occur there.
Correct.
Even if he didn't quite understand. I don't know. I was on this rock and my dad was holding a knife and then he started crying and he left. And then Bobby and Susie and Billy all, they were all in the room with me in the tent somehow. And then dad came back and he couldn't do it. Then what happens there? Like what happens is that where Ichvacher will shrink them all? Like he pushes Fred one by one or all at once in the tent? I think one by one is harsher. Yeah. Like he pushes Fred just sloppily.
Well, I think it's it's a different time, and then it's like you get some time to reflect upon it, and all of a sudden you get pulled back in one night. I think little Sally's on the altar.
I think I think you don't get physically pulled back in. I think he visits you, maybe shock white hairs you. And so that look, I have to go back. And he keeps visiting. You can't sleep. You can't eat. If you refuse to go, like your health is starting to suffer. But eventually you have to. There's such a pull that you have to. But it forces them to do the trek again. It forces them to go back through the ethereal plane again. It forces them to walk over the sand again, as opposed to just getting pulled back by him.
Fair enough.
So it's just all torture.
Most definitely.
Okay. So we've covered what happens what consequences for going there with purpose, consequences for failing the purpose. What if you're just a curious teenager and you want to go check it out because you've heard the stories? So you go there without purpose at all, except you want to check it out. What happens then? So me and a couple of the village kids were like, you know that guy Roger? You know that guy Roger? Yeah, he's got that white hair. Ichvacher got to him, but he's still alive. Like he won't talk about it. Let's try to find him. What's he going to do to us? We haven't offended the god. We're always hospitable. Yeah. He can't hurt us, right?
Wrong.
Wrong. Wrong. All right. Now, did you have an idea for it, or did you just write that up there?
I just wrote it up there because there should be a consequence for that, and I think it's one of those things where.
What about something like really screwed up, like blindness? So he turns their hair white and their eyes white. They can't see anymore.
Hair's normal. Eyes, no pupils.
That's what I mean.
It's like all white.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, totally white. Like their eyes go white. Mm-hmm. Can they still see?
No.
So they're blind.
Total no vision.
No vision.
So it's not like, I can make out shadows. You've lost your ability to see completely.
Okay.
And you have no idea what it looks like.
Is that not a death sentence, though? Because if they're out in the mountains, and I think we agree that it's got to be a hike. It's got to be a hike to get there.
Ichvacher would take them home.
Okay, so he would just drop them back on their beds at night.
They have to get backwards.
What's the point? What's the point? Everyone needs to know I'm here. Okay, so shock white hair and blind eyes because they saw what they weren't meant to see. That's why, and they know it. Like they know. If the place is vengeful enough to let them in. And they don't
even know if they saw it or not.
I say they saw it, so they have something to describe.
No. I think they don't know if they saw it or not. To them, it's like, I went through this mist, and I just woke up here, and now I can't see. I
think that, like I said, I'm being selfish, I'll admit. My bit is I want this whole thing, everything about this guy to be steeped in lore, which means people have to be able to tell the story. So if somebody was stupid enough to go out there...
Yeah, but the story is, if you happen to go there, even if you think about it, once you've committed and you're in the mountains to going, you will be struck blind and thrown back to the family. So it's like that in itself grows his legend.
Yeah, but... if they saw his home, I think it should be something significant like, okay, the place allows them in. Like, the place is okay with visitors. The place lets people come in. But if they come in and they don't have purpose, I think they have to see the altar. I think they have to go into the tent. Like, no, you go into the tent. No, you go into the tent. And they have to go into the tent and see the altar, see where the deed occurs.
Okay, they see outside when they go inside I'm sticking when they go inside that tent. At that point, they wake up blind.
Yes, but I want them to remember. The
only thing they're going to remember are the glowing eyes.
Okay. Now, what if you get in there and you don't go into the tent? Can you leave the place without a consequence? Like, maybe you're like, oh, no, this is wrong. We shouldn't have come.
Yes.
And then you can just leave.
Yes, but no one knows that.
Because they also forget?
They forget the entire experience.
I still like the idea of them remembering. Why do you want them to forget? Like, what's the...
Because there's a horror to not understanding what's going on exactly.
But they'll remember why
they'll remember going there. They'll remember stepping through the fog and then just stepping out like nothing happened, and they don't know why.
Okay. So they won't remember realizing the mistake of their ways. They won't remember that.
No.
See, I think they should.
Because the problem is then people know you can just walk out and leave. And that's not acceptable.
Well, no,
that's
because
a lesson people have to learn.
No, because it'll be different. If somebody goes there with that intention, they're just going to walk in and walk out, then
that's not good enough for
stuff's going down.
But it's not going to let them out just because they say, "Oh, I'm ready to go now."
Right.
I mean, it's a subconscious commitment.
Well, maybe if they go in because they've heard the story, like maybe every once in a while somebody ends up there who's, pure of heart, and they realize what a mistake they've made. Like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be here.
Or how about this?
Well, hang on, let me finish. And they get let out, right? Mm-hmm. And they tell the story. Now, other people get it in their mind like, oh, well, I want to go check it out. But they are not pure of heart or of intention. Mm-hmm. So they go up there and they are beckoned into the tent, subsequently blindness and what have you.
Okay.
And again, still, do you want to wipe the memory of it? I think the memory is important. I really want to fight you on that one. But it's your world.
Yeah, but this is almost way too gory for me to use in the type of fiction I write, which is
well, I mean, we could do some sort of side story on the website. It doesn't have to go in a book.
All I would say is,
"Ooh, can I be your horror fanfic ghostwriter?"
If you want to be a horror fanfic ghostwriter, people can ghostwrite for my world if they want to.
Okay.
Actually, they don't have to ghostwrite for it; they can put their own name on it. But yeah, okay. What happens is it determines their intentions once they get there.
Yeah, like it can see through you. It just knows you.
Because, too, if the reason you really want to go is cowardice, that's not a good enough reason. So it knows that you want to go and the reason you want to go. Mm-hmm. And if it determines that it's just, it will let you go. And people themselves might not know the exact thing that got them out, what they were thinking even.
Like maybe there's...
Just that they wanted to go and they left. And some people will say that and they aren't blind, and some people say that and they are blind.
So maybe there's like, say, 4 teenagers and they're headed up into the mountains, and one kid the entire way is like, these are his best friends, so of course he's going to go with them. But he's like, we should not do this. You don't mess with Ichvacher. Guys, this is a dumb idea. We shouldn't be here. I can't even believe you got me up here. We shouldn't. So the whole way he's fighting. Yeah. So maybe he comes back and he's still got his sight, but the other 3 come back blind.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or he steps in and then realizes, oh my gosh, guys, we really shouldn't be here. And he just turns and poof, he's out, and the other 3 are still in. And then they come back either he just walked home alone. Yeah. Or maybe they end up. Yeah,
because part of the punishment would be to go back at home. Because my other thought was the god of war would not like it if it was cowardice. So we'll let them remember, but it judges them at a subconscious level and determines, do they deserve to stay or do they deserve to go? Mm-hmm.
And who gets blind or not. But I like the blinded by the altar bit. Like they see the altar and that's it. You have come way too far.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
You remember walking into the tent. And then from that point, it's like his eyes almost. Yeah. You feel like you just see his eyes as soon as you walk in. And it feels like that's what blinds.
Instead of white eyes, because it's so significant, maybe their eyes turn gray like his. What do you think of that?
Or how about dark, like it's burnt?
But
it's like it doesn't look burnt, but it's like a burnt color. Like, because it's like when you open up that flap and go in without having a reason to go.
Right.
All you can see, the thing you remember, are his glowing eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you feel like your eyes are burning. And all of a sudden, it's gone. And you wake up back at the thing, and they have like a burnt color to them, but they look perfectly like just eyes without pupils.
So,
like a burnt orange. You know what I'm saying? That's like...
I think I like the white better than a burnt orange. Okay. But what I was thinking is two things. Either one, because the image we have of his eyes are just like the iris is just like a steel gray. Mm-hmm. So you've got black. You just got a circle. That's all you have. What if their eyes looked like that? What if their eyes are all black?
That's too much of a blessing.
Too scary. What?
Too much of a blessing to get his eyes.
Okay.
All right. No one can have his eyes but him.
Okay. Fair enough. So just white. I like the white better.
Yeah. The white's better
white and blind.
The problem is that if their eyes end up looking like his, then it weakens his eyes.
Fair enough. Yeah, because then they'd be like, "Oh, I've seen these before."
Yeah.
Let me take a step back just for clarification. I agree with you that if they open the flap of the tent and they see the altar, they should not remember what they saw. I just want them to remember having gone
Getting
there.
Up to that point. That's fine. That's
like
fine.
I want them to be able to talk about
and knowing
like,
about the sand and stuff like that. That's fine.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it at the flap. The flap will be closed for them. They have to open it.
Like the parents walking in with a child, they just walk right in. But anybody else, like, no. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we've covered all of our consequences. What else do you have written here?
Other thingies.
Other thingies. Like what?
Well, that was because I didn't really know.
We weren't sure what else we wanted to cover.
Because I was saying, in this kind of scenario, there's usually some kind of connection between the supernatural and the area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sort of like the idea where, you know, like old vampires, you know, would have to sleep on the dirt of their homeland and stuff like that. But in this scenario, I think it's completely a supernatural connection. So that would be kind of irrelevant here.
Yeah, it seems like I think what we've got here is pretty much everything surrounding Ichvacher is intention based. Like your intent on respecting your parents, your intent on disrespecting a guest, your intent on what you're going to do when you go try to visit his place. Does his place have a name?
No.
There's no name for it. Like the home of it. Would you say the home of Ichvacher or Ichvacher's home or Ichvacher's
how about the Moaning Sands?
The Moaning Sands? Mm-hmm. Oh, you'll have to take your... if you better be good or your dad's going to take you to the Moaning Sands. Yeah. Ooh, I kind of like that. Moaning Sands.
It's also good, too, because...
I'm going to write that one down.
One of the...
You think that's going to be final?
One of the evil gods is actually... he's the leader of the Sand People is what they're called. So I'll have to figure something out. But yeah, I'll have to...
You like Moaning Sands?
Yeah.
Moaning dirt, moaning mud, crying sands?
Oh, it would be moaning.
Moaning? Okay. Trying to come up with other... soil references. I think we've covered this pretty well. You got anything else you can think of?
No, I think we have covered it.
I think we're ready to move on to tasks.
Yes. So the world building task for the day is to come up with your own creepy place. And now if you listen to the last episode and you created your own boogeyman, don't feel tied in like what we decided. We actively decided we wanted to make this a location for our boogeyman.
Yeah. Like it was quite purposeful that we made the boogeyman, and then we decided to give him a home.
Yeah.
And you don't have to make a boogeyman. I mean, that was a task from the prior episode.
What I say is, if you went through that, when you create a creepy place for this task, it doesn't need to be a home for him.
It could just be a haunted shipyard or.
And part of it, and the thing you have to keep in mind when you do that is it's a balance between what's actually frightening to the actual people involved in the story.
Yeah, I think that's
what's creepy,
super huge point.
But you also have to keep in mind your avatar, your readers, and they also
have to be scared.
They have to be scared, or you're at least convincing them that the people are scared.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you want to do that, but
like to get them. I mean,
the best kind of creepy place works on both of those levels.
Well, or it's just sold in a way that it's creepy by proxy.
Yeah.
Or
it could be because you get it through the emotions of the people.
Like a perfect example, take a look at how Stephen King writes. Mm-hmm. There are so many things in his books where he creates a power out of something benign. I'm going to stumble over my words for 5 minutes and then continue my thought.
Yeah.
Specifically, I'm thinking of a short story he wrote, I believe, called The Sundog. And in that story, he made a Polaroid camera terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Who'd be scared of a Polaroid camera? But it was terrifying. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you can go in that road, like it doesn't necessarily have to be a scary thing. It doesn't have to be inherently scary to the reader as long as you can sell it.
And I did do a previous episode where I talked about using horror elements in a non-horror way. And that's a very and even if you intend it to be horror, the idea, this was a story Nate had told me years ago, illustrating the point, which is that of a moose. Imagine you're driving down a road late at night and your car kind of comes to a stall and you see this moose just walk out onto the pavement and stare at you.
You know there's a moose horror movie coming out, don't you?
No.
There is.
And then the lights and the power, everything just sort of radiates and flickers. And in that brief second of flickering, the moose is now 10 feet closer. And it happens again, and it's closer, and it just keeps moving, but only when
the lights are out,
flicker, and you have no control over that.
And he shouldn't have covered the amount of ground he covers in that flicker,
in that kind of time, and you don't hear it moving. You start taking away senses that should be there. You start adding other senses that shouldn't be there, and you can turn anything into a good horror element. And I'm not a big one for gore, which is kind of funny how over the top.
Yeah,
and I really was sort of pushing the whole way. Yeah,
I know you were totally on it too. I was kind of surprised.
And
Ichvacher is a creepy.
Dude.
He's visceral.
He's a visceral jerk.
Yeah.
But
he's visceral necessary.
That doesn't mean he's not a jerk.
Well, he's doing his appointed job. Yeah. Maybe it's just
what you got because he's a jerk.
Well, he was a jerk. Maybe now he's just necessary.
It's also the lesson, be careful who you're rude to because you never know when it's a god. Yeah. That's the problem in polytheism. The gods can walk among you as mortals and boy, you screw up once,
There's a lot of good stories like that.
Chained to a stone and
a liver eaten out.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the world builder task for the day. Make a creepy place. Haunted house, ghost town, creepy ghost ship, Ichvacher's home, whatever you want. What's the real world task of the day?
Remind your spouse when guests are coming to visit. And that's specifically when you have a guest coming over and they're not necessary towards it. Much like, let's say you have a guest for your podcast.
It's kind of ironic considering the whole topic of the last two episodes that today I came over to Jeff's house. And he and I were texting about recording today. We were supposed to record a few days ago, but schedules got conflicted and we weren't able to do it. So I arrived today and your wife was not expecting me and you weren't home yet. So she's like, hi, what are you doing here? Yeah. And I'm like, Jeff didn't tell you. Like, we're recording today to make up for the other day.
And, whether or not I remember to tell her, which I'll say I didn't because she's my wife.
Is there anything I can do to tell Ichvacher that you didn't mean it?
We'll have to sacrifice you, actually.
Me? Not me. You're the one that did it. No.
You're the closest
I'm the
thing
guest.
I have to a child.
I'm the guest.
That makes it just ironic.
I think Nate's the closest thing you have to a child.
We'll see if we can come over. Okay.
Nate, if you're in town.
Swing on by. But yeah. And now for the tease. Which is now right
I almost forgot that.
I almost forgot the tease as well, too. The tease for next episode is I'm in a let's build mood. Let's build a hero. And we'll leave it at that.
Oh,
a character.
You said let's build.
Yes.
I thought you said less build. I was like, less building? We're not going to build?
Well, it would be like a hero, but they don't do anything.
I see. So,
that's the less.
Oh, have you seen the great one? Yeah, he's eating potato chips and drinking beer again.
Has he done anything yet?
Nope. No, he's just standing there. He's got a really great set of armor and sword.
Look at that sword. It's
huge. Big. This guy's glowing like magical or something. Is he going to kill anything with it? Nope. Dragon's still fine. Dragon's fine. As a matter of fact, he's burning the church right now.
Yeah. So next time we will build a hero. And as always, make sure to go to gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com for the show notes. It'll be under podcasting, World Builders Anvil. That's a great place to get all of the information from the episode that you've just listened to and to see all the resources that we've talked about in this episode. Thanks for joining us this episode of the World Builders Anvil. Please be sure to rate and review us in iTunes, and please help get the word out to your friends about our show. And join me, Jeffrey W. Ingram at Garduel.com, to see the progress of my world and learn why I made the choices I did. And please contact me and let me know the topics you would love to hear in the future. Now strike, while the myth rolls high.